Welcome to my film review of Spider-Man 2, or its full story being Far From Home. So this is the follow-up to the new Spider-Man as we know him, in the latest Marvel Universe version. We saw the first one in 2017, just in time for him to join in with some Avengers dealings, and then he had a pretty decent role in the Infinity Wars / Endgame, or was he in Endgame? Movie. So yes, and he's back. He is back. But most importantly, and best of all, Marvel is back. Now I just want to get it out there right now. Before I saw this movie, after watching Endgame, I came out the cinema and honestly it felt like I'd been to a funeral. Now I don't want to get melodramatic or whatever. I'm not a absolute massive Marvel geek. I'm a bit of a latecomer to the franchise. I don't read the comics, but I love movies. And all of a sudden, I've become addicted to the Marvel Universe. And just as I was really getting into it, all of a sudden Infinity Wars and Endgame came along, and I thought Marvel was done. I thought we're finished. Okay. And I was mortified. Absolutely mortified. But with Spider-Man, we are back. And yes, this is a good movie. This is an awesome movie. I can't decide what I love most about this movie. Was the movie brilliant, or am I just so utterly relieved that the Marvel world is continuing? It's a bit of both. It has to be a bit of both. Because this movie I thought was absolutely awesome, but what I loved most about it, and hopefully all you Marvel fans will feel the same as me, is it acknowledges what's gone on in the past. Now maybe that might sound like a stupid comment, maybe it was obvious it was going to. I'm no Marvel expert. I don't read the comics, like I say. I don't go online and read forums. I don't want any spoilers. I just like to watch the movies as they come out and go on the journey that I see in the cinema. So I don't know all the intricate stuff that's going on behind the scenes. I just make my assumptions based on what I see at the cinema screen. And after watching the latest two Avengers movies, I felt mortified. I felt like my favourite movies, the best thing about cinema, all of a sudden, finito. And of course, Stan Lee sadly passed away very recently as well. So it was almost like, if ever there was going to be a time to, move on, maybe this would be that time. But I'm not saying they haven't moved on. What I am saying is, all of the time and emotion that we've invested into these previous, is it 21, 22, 23 previous Marvel movies, it's not wasted. The story continues, and that is the best thing about this Spider-Man movie, and that's what I'm so happy about. So it's not a spoiler to say that the story continues. Just be pleased to know that it continues. Right from the opening sequence, from the very start of this movie, it acknowledges what's happened in the past. I was fearful that the new movies involving, for instance, if we look at Spider-Man on his own, it was just going to be, right, now it's all about Spider-Man. Just like it was 20 years ago with the Spider-Man movies. Wasn't a huge fan of them. It's just about Spider-Man. There's nobody else, no other characters involved. With the new Spider-Man, I'm not saying there's other characters involved, but they are acknowledged. The story picks up exactly where Endgame left off. Yes! I'm so pleased about that. So, the story goes on. Yes, the things that happened in Endgame still happened, and Infinity Wars, but the best thing is, all of that storytelling hasn't come to an end. It's just a new chapter. It's a new edition of the book, and we put that book on the shelf and we start a new book, a new edition, but all that stuff that previously happened still matters, still means something. It is still part of the Marvel universe that we continue watching today. So thank you, Marvel, thank you. God, what a relief. So the first 5 minutes of this review is basically nothing about Spider-Man, it's just been about Marvel. but I was so excited. I was buzzing when I went in the cinema, and as soon as the movie starts, it's perfect. It's like, yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. This is just what I wanted, but hadn't dared hope for. It's perfect. These guys are awesome. The guys that put these movies together are geniuses. They are brilliant, brilliant storytellers. And if they've spent so much time writing comics, you know, where it's huge storytelling universe, then no wonder. These guys are awesome. These are the best. These movies are the best. I feel so sorry for anyone that isn't into the Marvel universe. It's not too late. Get into it, get caught up, and enjoy every Marvel movie that comes out of the cinema, because they are the best. So there's not much I need to say or will say about the movie Spider-Man 2, because firstly, I'm never going to spoil anything on this movie, on this film review channel, about what happens in the movie. But just know this: it's fantastic. It's bloody awesome. I'm giving this a 9.3 out of 10. Now maybe you think that's a low score. Why aren't I giving it a 10 out of 10, given that I'm so excited? To get at a 10 out of 10, it's almost impossible, you know? 7 out of 10 is your par, watchable. 8 out of 10 is awesome. Once you get to 9 out of 10, whoa, you are literally in amazing territory, and that's where this is. It might be getting a couple of extra points because of the fact that it's the continuation from my emotional investment into the previous Marvel movies. So it could be picking up 0.2, 0.3 of a point for that fact, but this, even without that, is a solid 9 out of 10 movie. Firstly, the trailer. I'd seen the trailer. Obviously, I saw it after watching Endgame, and I was like, yeah, I can't wait for that. It looks awesome. Well, actually, it looked okay from the trailer, in fairness. That's my point. The trailer made it just look okay. The movie itself far exceeds the trailer. The trailer is brilliant at not giving away any spoilers or too many clues. Well done, Marvel, as to what happens in the movie. What you see in the trailer, or at least the trailer that I saw, I'd still avoid trailers if you can. That's my advice for watching any movie. But the trailers that I saw don't give too much away at all. There's still a lot happens in the movie that you had no hint of from the trailer, which is fantastic. So there was so much I did not expect to happen in this movie. Loads of stuff happened that I really enjoyed. Peter Parker, the new guy that plays Spider-Man, I've got to be honest, what a lovable little kid. He's like, Spider-Man's pretty much my favourite guy now. And back in the day, the old Spider-Man movies, I haven't even seen them all. They were boring, didn't like them at all. But I think the guy that plays Spider-Man, Tom Holland, he's just so lovable, likeable, cutesy little, innocent, sweet, really polite school kid. I like that. I like that. You know, he's all the traits that you'd want in a boy that age. Very polite, well-mannered, good morals. He's a great guy. And for that reason, the Spider-Man movies are awesome and very likeable. But then you've got tech. I love tech. And there's more and more tech in this movie. Tech. It's full of it. The tech stuff is awesome. Again, that's another thing that I love about these modern Marvel movies, the level of technology and stuff that's in them. It's just awesome. So, there you go. It's a phenomenal movie. You will be pleased to know the Marvel story, the Marvel universe continues. We pick up where we left off. This particular Spider-Man movie is phenomenal. The story writers are brilliant. I loved it. I loved the journey. I loved the journey that took you on through this movie. It was just brilliant. Great story. Genius writers. And this is the key thing. The end scenes are back. Yes, the end sequences are back in the Marvel movies. Thank you, Marvel. Thank you. But not only that, the end sequences are the biggest and best end sequences I think we've ever had. Now, get this. I was in a cinema with reasonably full. 2 people walked out at the end of the movie. So, you know, they must have known. And this was like a showing that ended after midnight. So you're a pretty hardcore movie fan to be still in the cinema, in a cinema showing that ends after midnight. Yet you're not hardcore enough to wait for those extra 2 or 3 minutes for that initial additional scene that comes after the first 2 or 3 minutes. You know the first one, and then there's another one right at the very end, the one that only the hardcore fans hang around for, because you have to wait like another 10 minutes. Well, they didn't even wait for the first one, and we all know the first one is critical. The first one tells you, here's a little hint of what's to come in the future, and the last one, the one that you have to be hardcore to wait for, it's normally just a gag. It's normally just a bit of humour, thanks for hanging around, bit of a laugh, but nothing too critical storyline-wise. Well, no, they've blown it out the water with this. These guys that left the cinema early, if they go and watch the next movie, they'll be like, what? They will be blown away. The end sequence, it's only 3 minutes, the first one that you have to watch. It's only a 3-minute end sequence. It only takes 3 minutes, I always time it. Took 3 minutes for the first end sequence. You absolutely must hang around for it. It is critical. It's the most incredible end sequence I think we've ever had. It was huge. It was huge. So please hang around for that. And then the next one does take a lot longer. It's 8 minutes. 8 minutes of black credits. But you know what? It ain't just a gag. Normally it's just a little gag. This wasn't a gag. This was actually something quite revealing about the entire movie. You can't miss it. I mean, you can if you don't give a crap, but if you don't give a crap, why are you going to the movie in the first place and paying God knows how much? You know, hang around and see the final end sequence. It is awesome. It's a must. It's just as important. Well, it's not just as important, but it's very revealing and very important. It's not just a gag, so hang around for those end sequences. And what more do you need to know? This is a phenomenal Marvel movie. Definitely good for the date night. If you go on a full price, you know, Friday night, Saturday night, where you can't do buy one get one free, fine, no problem at all. I would also recommend, if there's an IMAX cinema near you, I know it's a lot more money, it's an extra like £5, but you know what? Totally worth it. I didn't go in the 4D moving seats. That's my local cinema, the 4D moving seats. I didn't actually do it for this movie. I'm not a huge fan of the moving seats. It would have been okay. By all means do it. But if I was to pick anything for this movie, it wouldn't be the moving seats. The upgrade of choice would be, without question, IMAX. This is definitely worth paying to go and see at the IMAX. It is a thoroughly fantastic movie, and guess what? The special effects are mind-blowing. So to see them on an IMAX, it's been filmed specially for IMAX again. To see this movie in IMAX would be phenomenal. And I'm going to see if I can get, it's a 60-mile journey to my nearest IMAX screen. Definitely going to try and get myself there while it's still shown in IMAX. It's worth it. It's that good. This really was a brilliant movie with the usual spectacular special effects. And there was parts of this movie, in fact, that were just brilliant. There were like the special effects and the scenes and the stuff that was going on was absolutely awesome. I found it so satisfying. I really did love this movie. I'm tempted to give it a 9.5. I'm giving it a 9.5 out of 10. I'm upgrading. I'm giving this a 9.5 out of 10. It was that good. Some of the scenes, I loved it. How they come up with this, it was just brilliant. This really was a good movie. This was a cracker of a movie. Spider-Man is a brilliant character, and this was such a well-written story, but they executed the cinematography, special effects so well. This movie, at times, was groundbreaking. Some of the scenes, it really was brilliant. It's like, you know, when you watch The Matrix for the first time, you're like, oh wow, that's cool. It kind of had a hint of that going on, as if we were seeing stuff filmed in a way that it probably has been done before, but when Marvel do it, they just do it to perfection, you know. So this was something quite special indeed. Go and see it as soon as possible. Make sure you've watched Avengers Endgame first, because if you haven't, this is gonna wreck it. So Avengers Endgame is still showing with the new 8 minutes added scenes at the end, bit of Stan Lee interview and tribute and all that at the end. So go and see Avengers Endgame at the cinema if you haven't already. If you have, go and see it one more time, and definitely see Spider-Man as soon as possible, because this is a movie you're probably going to want to see at the cinema 2, 3, 4 times while it's out, and definitely see it in IMAX if you can. It is totally worth it. This is a phenomenal movie. Thank you, Marvel. Yes, we're back. The story continues. It picks up where it left off. God, this is awesome. Thank you. 9.5 out of 10.
Probably enjoyed this even more than Endgame, but I don't think that's possible. But it's right up there. Loved it, loved it, loved it. Thank you, thank you. Thanks for listening, and we will see you on the next review. Goodbye.